So let us use this sequence for now. So we'll see what the difference between these three and how do they differ in your execution part as well as your implementation part. So for now, we'll basically use these sequences in the most of the cases. So when you create a new sequence, it will ask you for the name. Let me say, today we are doing our web recording, right? So we have seen only desktop automation in the last day. So today let us go ahead and see how do we do this web automation, correct? Using either recording or as well as so. And after doing this too, we will go ahead and see how do we create variables and what are the scopes and all those other details, right? So now just as how we have done yesterday, so we have clicked on this recording and then we said basic right, and then we said record, correct? So this is where your recording starts, as we have seen in the last class. So to click on your Internet Explorer, you click on this. So this should eventually uh, open your what do you call this, browser, right? So now once you open this browser, you are supposed to give a specific address to this no bar or your address bar where that will be reloaded. So to do this, all you have to do is click on your escape and then say type and then click on type and then give this field and then type in whatever you want to do. So let me say I want to open google.co.in, right? Along with this, I want to give an enter and then give an enter. So this is my home page. And then I would say a recording, or I would say I would even want to type again. So let me give a type. So you click here and say Times of India. So let us say we want to automate this Times of India and then get the latest news for the day, something of that sort. Probably that will help us just for a demo. So I click on enter. So yes, and then I want to click. Let me go and click here, and this is going to redirect me to this page. So probably after some time, I'll be redirected to my home page because it says timesofindia.com will load in a few seconds. So you should give it enough time and then you do this. So this is your top story, right? So you have to extract text from here. So this extracting text from here will be a problem using this recording. So let us say for now, all you're trying to do is try to open this Times of India homepage, correct? So if you see, you have this sequence of activities that have been created by using a recording. So let us try to rerun this. Okay, so how do we run it? So we go and click on a run. So I do that. So this is going to open my home page. And now I'm actually supposed to go and click on this address bar, whatever my current cursor is currently showing, but it is not doing that. So let us see what happens. So if you see, it is not typing into that search bar, right? So that is actually a very simple thing to type into a search bar or opening to a page, but that also doesn't happen properly using your recording. So probably by this time or seeing this error, you should be understanding why does this recording or why is this recording not recommended in real time, because you would be struck with such kind of different errors that would come up at different stages while trying to do basic things using the recording. But let us see how do we handle this, or when we try to do this using a manual sequence. This is how we have done for calculator and not a recording sequence. So this is your recording sequence. So when I run this, you're not able to run. Let us try again. Okay, let me stop and rerun this. So I have clicked on F5. So this has opened the browser, and yes, we will have an error here. So this is the recording part that we are running currently, and it is not working fine. So we will see why is it not working fine and how do we handle this. So this is just an example that will make you understand or get to know how this recording will fail at many a times and is not a reliable solution for you to opt for in case of your real automation things, right? So this is your error. So now let me just not use this. So for that I will just comment this out. So now let us say the first thing that I have to do is, just as how we have done yesterday, the first thing that I will have to do is click on this icon, right? So for clicking, what is the activity that we'll use? It's a click. So you drag and drop your click. So you click on indicate on screen on that activity, and then you point your cursor to the exact element which you're trying to click. So by clicking on that, it will, the UiPath will select the field or the specific icon that it is trying to click. So you will have this. So let me say at this stage you have this thing. And also, okay, before we jump into that, let me continue with this. So now I want to type into something, right? So let me say I want to type into. So let me use this type into, indicate on screen. Let me say I want to type into this field, right? So now here, if you see, I just want to make this field empty before I go ahead and type something. Because if I go ahead and start typing, let me say I want to type in google.co.in, it will be appended to the existing address, right? But instead, I just want to clear everything out and then start typing like this, right? So how do we do it using our UiPath tool? So for that, in your type in activity, you have a property called empty field, right? If you see here, there is something called empty field, so which is not selected by default. So when you click on this, it means it empties the complete field that is trying to type in. So now when I click on this, it is going to empty that field. And then let me say I'll type in dot google.co.in. Along with this google.co.in, I have to pass an enter also, which is going to load that home page, correct, or the search page. So for that, I have to click on this plus, which will give me an options of special keys that are available on the keyboard for us to use. So from that, I am selecting only enter. Once you select that, you'll see that it has appended a small piece of script to along with your existing address. So let us save this and run this and see how this works. So I'm running this. It, so now it has clicked on the browser, and if you see, it is not even typing into the exact field that we have specified. Instead, it is typing into this field. So how do we handle these issues? So for example, I want to click on my address bar or in the complete address bar instead of typing here. Because Bing treats both of these as the same address bar, we will have this issue. So how do we overcome this? So any ideas or anything that you have? Okay, so let's go ahead and see how do we overcome this issue of not typing into the exact address, right? So there are many specifically dedicated activities for doing basic things like opening your browser and giving your home page or your address page. So you are supposed to use that rather than building up your own source code for that. So let us delete these two. I don't want this, neither do I want this to open that. So instead of this, all you can do is go and click on open browser. So if you see, there is a simple activity which is open browser. Let me drag and drop that. And once I drag and drop, it is asking for the URL. So let me say on my home page, I want to open my browser with google.co.in. And I'm not even supposed to give any enter or anything of that sort. So let me save this and try to run this single activity which I've dragged and dropped. And all that I've done is I just gave it the address that I want to load when the web browser is loaded. Nothing else. I've not used the click activity to click on this to keep the browser, to first open the browser and then type in and all those details. I just dragged and dropped this open browser, gave my address, and that's it. Nothing else. So let us run this and see what does this do. So if you see it has opened, it has closed, and let us go back and see what has it done. So if you see it has opened your Internet Explorer and even logged into Google homepage, right? So if you see, instead of go and clicking on this icon and then typing into your address bar what is the exact address, the simple thing that you can do is just click on, use this activity called open browser. That will help you open the browser and also the home page that you want to open. So there are many dedicated activities that you have with respect to all these basic implementations of different robots. So if you are able to know or understand all these activities, that will be really helpful. So towards the end of the session, I will take one specific class where I will go through all the available activities in your UiPath. It's a time taking procedure, but still it is really interesting, or it is really good choice to go ahead with all the different activities that we have and understand why they are used and what they are used for. All right. So now let us say I have this browser. So once I open this browser, at this stage I'm at my home page, correct? So the next thing that I'm supposed to do is type into the search bar one specific detail. So let me say in this search bar I want to use type into. So this will type the details that I want to type into my browser, or specific search field. So let me click on this. I want to type in those details here, and let me say I want to type for Times of India, correct? And then let me click on this plus and give an enter. That would fetch me the details directly. So let me save this and try to run and see if it does the same thing. So now let us run. So if you see, we have just used two different activities. One is your open browser and one is your type into. With these two details, you are at a stage where you open a browser, go to directly your Google homepage, and then type in these details. All right. So next, the first thing that you're supposed to do is you have to click on this Times of India page to open and extract the news. Correct. So how do you click on this, or how do you open this link? All that you'll have to do is just click on this, right? So for clicking, we simply have to use my click activity. So let me use this click. So I will have to drag and okay. uh, and let me use this click, and then let me say click on the first result or whatever link that I want to do. So when I save this and see, so basically what we do is we just build the robots step by step and see how its performance is going on. So we will exactly know where is it failing, because I'm pretty sure that earlier step was ready till opening this homepage, Google homepage, and then typing on Times of India and going to the results page. So the only thing that I've added is to click on this link, which is your Times of India link. So let me go back and see. Yes, it is going into Times of India link. And then I want to extract this top story news. Correct. So now for me to show this top story to the user, what do I have to do? I have to extract something from this homepage or this page, right? Because I want to show this as an a message box, or maybe as a mail, or maybe you want to send a text, or maybe you want to call or do something. So you need to know what exactly is present here, correct? So for that you need to extract the text that is present, right? So how do you do that? So there is a activity called get text. So let me drag and drop that. So you have pulled in your get text activity. Click on this indicate element inside browser, and then you go and give your first result. So let me click on that. So if you see here, you are extracting text, and this extracted text has to be presented back to the user, right? Maybe using a message box or a printf statement. So what is a message box? It is a pop-up message that a user will get on the screen while the robot is running. So let me say, let us currently use a printf statement. So for printf statement, all we have to do is drag and drop this right line, correct? So let me click on this. I got my right line, but what am I supposed to give my text here? So the text I extract from here should be passed to this right line, correct? So how do I do that? I will create a variable, correct? I have, so the text that is extracted from this activity should be stored in a string variable, so which will accept any number of characters or different optical characters that we have. So you to do that, all you have to do is create your variable and say which is of type text, and let me say the name is output underscore times of India, and say okay. So if you see, there is a new variable that is created. So where is this coming from? It is from your variables pane in the bottom. So when you click on this pane is opened. So all the variables that are listed under the scope that you're currently lying will be listed out in this variables pane. So here if you see, there is only one variable, which is output underscore TOI, and the data type is string, and the scope is something that we will see going forward. So in this get text, whatever text that I'm extracting from the activity or from the link should be stored in a variable. So how do I tell this activity to store this extracted value into one variable, into the my specified variable? So all you have to do is click on here, which is your output, and let me say output underscore times of India. So here if you see, whatever value that is extracted from this get text activity, that is being stored in your string variable, which is your output times of India. So now I want to write that. So I will give the same variable here. So if you see, with our previous run, you only, so you only see the output as demo execution started and demo execution ended. It took 5 seconds. So now let us run and see. It's just times of India. So we are supposed to click on the link, and then here we are actually supposed to wait until the page or home page is loaded, correct? So this page has loaded and your robot has stopped without any error. So let us go back to my output and see. So yes, so it has given the same exact first result, whatever we have told, which is as first T20 live, Rohit Dhawan lead bright start. So now this has been written to my output pane, right? But who is going to go and check every time in my output pane? Instead, I want the user to know immediately while the robot is running. So what do I do? Instead of using a write line, I will just use a message box. So let me drag and drop this, and I'm deleting this thing. Here, let me give the same variable. So whatever text that has been extracted from the UI element in the browser, or the first result of news that we have as top news in your Times of India, and that is saved in your variable called output underscore Times of India, and that is passed into your message box. Right. Let me run this. Okay, first let me close all my browsers. So let me click on my run. So currently, if you see, this should give me a message box instead of just writing it to timeline, which is even more intuitive or helpful for the user to know what exactly is the latest news. Right. So if you see what has happened, it has given out a message box. So if you see, this message box is very intuitive in nature. So if you minimize your previous screen, if you see, this is how you get your message box. So this will be on the screen, and this will give you out the total text message that you have. So you click on OK. So this is going to close the message box. So this is how you extract text from a web service or a website. Any questions here? Any questions so far? Okay, if there are not any, then let's go ahead. So just as how we have seen, to open a browser, you will be using this open browser activity. So we will see how do we open different kind of applications that are installed or from a website service or anything else in the coming classes. But basically, it is always suggested to use inbuilt or dedicated activities that your UiPath has instead of creating custom code for any service that you're trying to automate. All right, if that point has to be really clear, which will help you in while creating real projects. So next, let's go ahead and see what are these variables and what is the scope that they have, and how does this scope affect the variable life, and the value that it carries, and all those details, right? So we have created a text variable or a string variable from this create variable thing on your design pane, correct? But instead, it is always recommended to create a variable from your variable pane. So let us say what is the difference. So when you create a variable from here, you have fixed type of variables that you can create here, right? Or the data types that you can create using this thing are fixed. So you only have generic value, text, number, date and time, true and false, and table, and you do not have anything more. For example, you cannot create an array of integers here, or nor you can create a list of variables, or you can create a data table or anything else, right? So how can you create all those? So all you have to do is go and click on your variables. So this variables pane here will list out all the variables that you have. Okay, let's go ahead and see. So currently I do not have any variables. Why is that? Because my scope is not selected. So let me select one of any of the activity. So if you see my current activity, which is lying inside a do sequence. So what is a do sequence? If you go up and see, which is inside your open browser, correct? There is a sequence called do. So all the activities that you put in inside this browser will go into your do. So if you click on this do, you will get your variable. Once you click on this open browser, you will lose the variable that you have. So which means this variable that you have created has a scope only to this do. So basically, all the activities or all the variables that you create are defined by a scope, which is basically a sequence of activities. So here, if you see, there are two different sequences, right? One is your do, which is accommodating more than one activity, and the other one that you have is your web recording, correct? So how do you change? So how does this change of scope affect it? So let me say I change this. So how do you change your scope? So I click on this. You have a drop down. From this drop down, you can select all the available sequence names that you have. So the initial sequence or the sequence of activities that is by default picked by robot is this do. So let us change that to this web recording. So now if you see, the scope of this variable has been defined as web recording. It is not just do. So even when I click on this web recording and try to access this, you will be able to see. So what does this visibility mean? So when I click on this web recording, and this variable is visible, and if I change this just to do, okay, let me click here. If I change it just to do and click on my other recording, and this is not available. So what does this actually mean? So how is this scope affecting my variable? Because it is already present inside your do, and what will it happen if I change the scope from do to web recording, right? So let us see that. So if you try to use the same message box, so if you see inside this do, you have a message box which says your variable, and let me minimize this do and put something right next to it. So let me put one more activity here and say output underscore times of India. So if you see, you have an error here which is your validation error. So if you try to run this activity also, this will not run. So you will immediately get a pop-up telling your workflow has validation errors, review and resolve them first. So you will not be able to execute. So what is the error that it tells? So it tells output underscore times of India is not declared. It may be accessible due to its protection level. So if you see that that value is defined only inside your do. So now let me change the scope from do to web recording. Correct? So now you don't have that error. Why don't you have an error here? Because the scope is changed from just this do to your web recording. So your web recording is the basic or the original sequence within which all other activities lie. So if you talk about globalization of variables, so all you have to do is take the topmost sequence that you have, which usually will be the name of the XAML file. So if you are able to set the scope to the topmost sequence or the name of the XAML file, that will make sure that your variable is available across this complete sequence. Correct? So when I try to run this, so if we try to run this, so let me say, because we'll have this twice. Oh, sorry. So let me say in this, message box from web underscore recording sequence. So whenever we have the message box coming, we'll have this explicit message that will come up. Okay, so let us save and let's close this. And run this. So this is your home page. So what is this message box? This is your first message box that is coming up. So which says cluster, terrorist and all those details. Let me give an okay. And next, so this is the message box that is coming from web underscore recording, right? So this value is coming out of the sequence, which is not within the sequence. So if you try to change the scope of this variable from web recording to basic do, so then you will have an error directly coming up as a validation error. So the scope plays a major role with respect to the variables that you have and the value that you assign to it, and also how is it varying the reliability of your code. Are people clear with the scope and how is it affecting the availability of the variable across different locations? Any questions? Basically, okay. Looks like there are no questions. If there are any questions, people are free to pose now. Okay. So if there are not any, let's go ahead. So let me change the sequence so that this sequence can be executed. Let me click on this do, so I get this. Okay. So if there are any questions, you can pose. If not, then let me continue. Cool. So now let us see what. Okay, my application is not closing. So yes, looks like there's a question here. So Ms. Archana, so what exactly is your question? So what is the application that is not being closed, and when is it not being closed?
Hi. Actually, I did I tried to open the open
Can
browser.
you talk a little loud or put mic close to you because it's very low?
Okay. Now you can hear me.
Yeah, this is better.
I tried to open the browser, the google.com, and I did everything, but I tried to close the application at the end, but the application is not closing.
So so basically in the code, whatever I've shown you till now, I have not put a code which will close the browser. So how have you tried to close the browser in the first place? I was manually going and closing the browser after every run.
Oh,
So
okay.
so we have not seen a part where you are able to close the browser automatically. So that's a simple step, but I have not taken it yet. So if you want to close the browser, all you can do is there is an application, activity called close application.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So this is the activity that you're supposed to use. And once you do this, once you drag and drop, you'll have to indicate which activity it has to close. So you click on this and take the complete, so as you can see on screen, I'm currently selecting the complete Internet Explorer. So
Okay.
this would, extract the information of it has to close the browser. So
Okay.
now this time when you run, after each and every run, you will just have message boxes and the application that you have opened will be closed.
Okay. So I have to select the entire screen, right?
Yes, yes, or probably even a small window partition should be enough, but it is recommended to make sure that the blue screen, whatever your selector is trying to cover, when you are trying to select the element, it is recommended to make sure that complete Internet Explorer is selected you during that activity.
Oh, okay. Then I just selected the bar, so that's the reason why it's not
Oh
closing.
yes, because it is actually so you when you select a bar, that means you are asking it to close this specific item on the screen, but
Yes.
which is not the case because that is not a complete application.
Okay. Okay. I got
So
it.
you
Thank
have
you.
to make sure that this activity. So basically, this is consider this as a stupid robot until and
Okay.
unless you specify everything in detail and very specifically with respect to each and every aspect, it will not be able to do what you're trying to tell.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. So 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 okay, let's go ahead. So now let's go ahead and see how do we, what are the different kind of variables that we have and how do we import them all. So let me say I click on this variables. So it is not recommended to create variables from the scope from this area because you will not be able to set the scope and default value. But instead, it is recommended to use the create variable option that you have from your variables pane. So when you click on this thing, it will ask for a name. Let me say I give a variable of my name and I want to create a list. So what do? I go to my variable type, click on this, I will have a drop down. But here in this drop down, I do not see any list. I see only a boolean, integer, string, object, or array. So the list or the whatever that I'm trying. So let me say my Sangeet is going to be a list of strings, correct? So how do you select that which is not available in the drop down menu? So there is something called browse for types. Okay. So you click on that, you will be open to a world of opportunities from where you can select. So this browser or the window contains all the available data types that you have in your VB or your Visual Basic. So all you can do is I just want a list of strings. So let me say list. Even when I type on list, there are so many, but I'm pretty sure that it is in the scope of systems.collections.generic. If even that is not your confidence level, all you can see is everything else has something else. So this list is list extensions. So this is not the list of strings. So this list dictionary of a value and a key, this is different. List view column size is different. Everything else is different except for this list and which is in square brackets given as t. So when you click on this, you will get an option. From here you can type what type of list do you want. So let me say I want a list of type string. So I want a list of strings. So I select that, I click on OK. So here if you see, you have created a list of string, right? So this is how you create all the different types of variables and data types that you have from your UiPath using this basic browse for types option. And then once you select the specific data type that you want, then you can go and change the scope of this. So currently it is only web recording that is showing because I don't have any basic or any other sequences that are available. So currently if I click on that, I click on my do and then go ahead and see for scope, then I will have an option of that also. So basically it means wherever I have my current cursor placed on, that is where is the option that I can create or globally. So I have this do, so I get an option of this do. And then let me say what is the default value. So where is this default value helpful? So currently I'm just trying to create a list. So I just want to create a list of empty strings. Okay, so this is going to create a new list of string. So let me say I want to create a variable which is of type boolean. Let me say bool underscore one. So this is a boolean, and then my variable type is going to be bool, right? So I select my boolean, and what is my scope? So what is my scope? I change my scope to anything else. So let me say I give my full scope or my internal scope, and once I have my internal scope, I want my my boolean value to be false at any case. So until and unless I specifically go and tell that my boolean is true, I by default I want this value to be false. So how do I set it? So I go to this default value here and give my false. So once I give this as false, so my default value, whatever I'm trying to assign here, oh sorry, this is not come in double quotes. Yes, so this does not come in double quotes. So this is going to assign the value of false to your boolean one variable, right? So now when I try to print, or see, let me say I have given my scope as just to do, right? And my default value is false. So let's go ahead and print the value that is available in my boolean, correct? So for printing, what am I supposed to do? I can use either my write line or a message box. Message box is even better because I get it on screen. I need not go and search it somewhere else. So let me say what is my value, which is bool1, correct? But what is my error? It is not accepting. I try to print the boolean value if it is true or false, but that is not being accepted by my message box. I have a validation error here. So even if I try to save and run, I would not be able to run because I have validation errors. So what is the error here? So if you go and see whatever error that you have, all you can do is you can click on this specific icon. So this caution icon is something that specifies or tells what is the error. So it tells option strict on disallowed. So I'm reading the lower line. So option strict on disallows implicit conversion from boolean to string. So this is my boolean, and it tells it is not able to automatically convert this boolean to string. But why does it have to convert to string in the first place? I'm only trying to print my boolean, right? But still it is expecting a string here. So just to bring it to your notice, all the message boxes or write lines or any other activity that deals with communicating with user deals only with strings. It will accept only string. So I cannot send a boolean to this and ask it to display to the user. So all I have to do is convert this back to string. How do I do it? So the conversion is really easy in terms of this UiPath. So all you have to do is you have to click on dot to string. So this is a small extension to your boolean which will convert any type of variable if it is convertible to string directly to string. You cannot ask a array or list to be converted to string because it has so many values, but you can convert a integer, string, or variable. So let me say a float or a boolean, all these details back to string because they are a single occupancy of your data. So let me say currently my default value, what is my default value? My default value is false, right? So let me run this and see. I should get my default value as false printed out to the user. Okay, it has opened the browser and it has given us false, right? Okay, so this is an extension to our previous code. Okay, it has extracted the text, and yes. Okay, so now instead of having my boolean variable default as false, let me remove this. I don't have any value assigned, correct? So there is no value that is assigned to my boolean. So now when I run this, what would be my output? It says it is false. But how can I make sure that it is going to be false? So if you're not assigning any default value to your boolean or any variable, it usually takes junk values. So they are not reliable because it might give true in different cases also. So let us try to run this again and see if it gives really boolean again. Okay, it gives me false. Yeah. So this is false in most of the cases that we are running, but it is always recommended to make sure that you assign a default value that to your variable before you assign anything to it. And if the default value makes any difference to your execution in terms of your real-time implementation. So any questions? So was I clear with today's class about your automating a website or any basic thing? So probably last 10 minutes would usually be my questionnaire session to the attendees, because people will usually have questions, and I would really encourage people to go try and have all the questions coming up, which will keep the session also interactive. So any questions? Okay. So if there are no questions, then probably we will see different types of variables that you can create. So tomorrow we'll see what are these other different types of XAML files that you can create. So today we have just created this web recording using a sequence. So next we'll see what is this flowchart, what is the state machine, and also probably I guess people are clear with different types of data types, maybe like string, integer, and all others. So if not, also we will just go through today. So they are very simple. So let me say I want to create an integer. So I say in, and okay, this is a dedicated thing. So let me say I, and then I have to just change the variable type to integer, and then give a value or give a scope, and you can even decide give or define a default variable, or you can just leave it empty. So now all you can do is change the scope to web recording. So this is an integer, which is I have not defined any default value. Let me use this message box and then convert it to a string, because it is an integer. You have to convert it to string for it to print. So save. So let us see what will happen if I am trying to print something which is not defined anytime. So let me run this. So if you see, it has took the default value as 0, but I have not mentioned to it, correct? So this is the problem, because if I just have a check where I check if it is a positive number or a negative number or 0, and I have not assigned it anywhere, but by default it has took the value to be 0, which is not really appreciable. So it is always recommended to have any specific value assigned to it if you are going to use it, and then going forward. I hope people are understanding the importance of having a default value assigned to a variable. Okay, these are the top news. Yes. So this is how you create your integers, and then you can use this small, same type of variables to create something like data type variable, or your data table. So if you want to create a data table, you just have to type that here. So this is going to select my data table. So here is my data table. If not data table, let's go back and see date time. So people who are already comfortable with coding should be knowing all these different kinds of data types which we'll use going forward. So data table is something that we will use to extract data from an Excel file or a CSV file and store it in the form of rows and columns. That's just how you see them in your Excel file. Whereas this date time will have all the date and time format details already available in the variable itself, which will make us easy to handle and is really helpful in terms of doing string operations. So any questions?